what actually drives a learning culture. So like what Ron has started the whole thing, he talks about surveys, and after that he actually talked a little bit about the values. So what we are saying is that a learning culture has to be something that is a combination of knowledge, skills, and values that is going to impact on people. So I'll say that for myself, maybe just now, I'm not sure whether have you heard a little bit about my background. So I actually started off as a HR practitioner. So at one point in time, I was a learning and development specialist. I did that for about a year or so. Then I moved on to do a little bit about total rewards. And then from there, I moved on to take on the role as a HR generalist. So for a number of years, I'm a HR generalist, and from a practitioner, I moved on to become a HR leader. So my last HR role in my previous life was as a regional Chief Human Resource Officer for the Asia Pacific region. I covered 24 countries in Asia. And so every time I would joke with my friends, I joke with people that I first get to know them as well. I say that I know overseas more than actually I know about Singapore because I did about 80% of my traveling outside Singapore. So, and then 2 years ago, I took on the role as an executive director for Singapore Human Resource Institute as a business role. And this year, I took on the role as the executive director, which is equivalent to a CEO role for ASEAN Human Development Organization. So I actually moved from a practitioner role to a HR leader role to a business role. So, so that's the reason why I want to share a little bit from my perspective from the different journey, from the journeys that I actually moved on from a practitioner to a leader to the business side, and what are my views about the learning part. So very often as a specialist or even as a HR practitioner, we very often focus on doing our job very well. So if I'm a HR practitioner, I'll just focus on HR. And then if I'm a learning and development specialist, I will just focus on that. So why are we doing the things that we're doing? It is very important for us to actually start to think about the why. Why are we doing the thing? So very often we are focused on the what and the how. So I would like to propose that we really go back to the drawing board, going back to the foundation of why are we trying to advocate for a learning culture, and then how do we build a positive learning culture. So in my whole journey that I learned from my mentor, I learned from my coach, I always go back to the foundation part, which is really talking about the why. So I would say that from a business side right now, the most important question that I would ask, what is the business goal for your organization? So let's use the chatbot again. Okay, to create time, what do you understand about your business, your company business goal? What is the business objective, the final, the most fundamental business goal that that your organization is looking at? Profit, very good. Anyone else? Any comment? Revenue, growth, improving profit. So I would say that I'm very impressed with this group of people that is actually making the comments here, because about 3 years ago, I actually spoke for WSG, stand for Workforce Singapore, to a group of SMEs, okay, small and medium enterprises. When I asked that question, all of them are very nice to me. They all put on the HR hat, and then they start to say, oh, the business goal is to talk about the attrition rate, reduce the attrition rate, is to talk about engagement. I told them that, look, this is actually the HR goal. This is not the business goal. What exactly is the business goal? So they being very nice, being a Singaporean, very nice, very diplomatic. They give me the answer, but they are not the answer that I want. They are not the answer that I'm looking for. So, but I would say that a lot of you are giving me very good answer. Actually, the business goal for any organization, I'm talking about any private organization. I'm not talking about not-for-profit organization or charitable organization or the government. I'm talking about for private organization. The fundamental, the most basic business goal is to make money. Okay, I don't want to use a very bombastic words, very big words. I would say that to really connect with the business leader, I would say that I will use the most simple words to convince the people. to convince the business leader. So in the mind, any business, any shareholder is always looking at the dollar signs, the money. So we must first of all understand what is the most fundamental business objective, that is to make money. If that is the case, then we need to go back to the drawing board for HR and also for the learning and development specialist. So our question is, how does the business goal translate into the HR goal, into the learning and development goal? So I will always advise my HR people is that everything that we do, if it does not translate into dollar and cents, if it doesn't help the business to translate into dollar and cents, we are wasting our time. Whether how good it is or how bad it is, we are just wasting our time. Example, we talk about we're going to implement the application tracking system for recruitment. We're going to implement the learning management system for learning and development part. If all this does not help us to translate into dollar and cents, okay, then I can tell you that we will not get the buy-in from the business leader. So the business leader will always look at the thing, which is just now I talk about the money. So what are the two components? So I always learn from my mentor. She always shared with me a very simple equation. Profit minus cost equal, or revenue minus cost equal profit. So whatever we do, we must first of all make sure that we have to increase the revenue and we have to reduce the cost, then the company will increase the profit. So this is the most fundamental thing that I would like to share with all of us today. That is the first key message. So we must first of all know the first goal, which is to make money. And then the next thing is that we'll move on to talk about how to get a buy-in. What is in for me? So I will always look at, first of all, the business is always looking at for money. Then for CEO, what is the message that I need to bring to him? So I need to understand the question that is in his brain. He will ask, what is in for me as a CEO? So for CEO, most of them, they are talking about vision. They are talking about how to bring the organization from A to B to C to D. So we need to talk a lot about vision. So in our presentation, or in my presentation previously, when I wrote anything for my CEO to get the buy-in from him, I will address about vision. Then the next question is, what will be what is in for me for the CFO? Okay, so because CFO is the one who holds the purse of the organization. So besides convincing the CEO, I also need to convince the CFO. So the CFO will talk about the return on investment. So I need to make sure that I'm able to articulate about the dollar and cents, about the profit, about how it's going to help the business make more money, especially for the CFO. Then for the operations people, how would the thing that I'm going to do, how will learning and development help them to become more efficient, effective, and more productive? So that is something that I'm going to talk about it. And then at the same time, for the marketing people, how do I talk about branding and so forth? How do we help the marketing to become better and also to get more sales in? So I always talk to the different business executives and trying to understand what are the concerns that they have, and I begin to address what's in for me for them. So this is my strategy when I actually was as a HR practitioner and also even as a learning and development person. So that is how I actually get a buy-in from the different people. So I'm going to share a little bit more example later on, but I just want to quickly go through some of the insights that I've received over the past few decades. So there are some ideas for fostering positive culture. I think that some of you just want to talk about processes, talk about framework. So in the past, I actually came up with a learning and development or talent framework. This will help everybody to understand and everybody to be on the same page. Then the next thing is that while we are developing a learning culture, we also need to talk about what are the resources and what are the opportunities available. Okay, not just for HR practitioner, not just about doing the HR initiative, but really addressing what are the opportunities for the individual people to be on board on this learning and development journey with us. So, example for the employee. So, why should they learn. So we need to really articulate very clearly what will be the opportunity for them, what will be the career opportunity for them if they actually embark on this journey of learning. So how would learning actually help them in their journey? How would the learning actually help them in the promotion? How would their journey actually help them for doing the job better and even have a better relationship with the boss? So these are the things that we need to talk about, the opportunities. Then the next thing is that I want to talk a little bit about is curiosity, ideas, and feedback. I think so far, very often is that the L&D initiatives rest on the shoulder of the L&D person. But I would like to propose to many of us today who are L&D specialists, work with your people to come up with ideas. Don't shoulder all the responsibility on yourself. You should actually start to create a kind of culture, learning culture, but of course also a culture of curiosity. Get the people to be curious, like what just now Ron has said. Get the people to be very curious, so that they so that it becomes a part and parcel of their lifestyle, to learn and to share and to contribute ideas and to give feedback. So the last point I want to bring about is to talk about champions. So while we want to do this, I would say to make sure that we, this learning and development initiative doesn't die off. We need to constantly look for champions that will share the testimony, that will share the good things that they have done, and you need to constantly flesh it out. You need to get somebody to champion, to advocate on this. So starting from the CEO, starting from the executive, and also at the ground level, the managers, and also your employees. So these are the few things that over the few years that I actually have gathered some of the insights, some of the ideas that I've put in place for learning and development, how to drive it, how to drive a learning and development and learning culture in an organization. And the most important thing that the last few years I also begin to learn that is very powerful, and I begin to observe this in my own personal life and also in my professional life, is the area of coaching. So I find that coaching is very important. Mentoring and coaching is very important, and it's very essential in my own personal career. So like what I say that just now, a lot of the insights that I've gathered, besides doing the job itself, I actually have my coach. I actually have somebody in my organization who is actually coaching me, guiding me to become my sounding board. So that is where I begin to realize that it actually helps me a lot in my progression. So that's why I want to share with you that I'm actually moving from a professional practitioner person, and then I move on to be a HR leader. And the thing is, because I actually believe a lot about mentoring. I heard a lot. I mean, I have my mentors, and they actually coach me. They actually ask me a lot of questions. So I would say that right now we are in the midst of the pandemic situation. We are not sure how long are we going to stay in this until the vaccine is being found. But one of the things that I begin to learn from observing this COVID situation, so just take a reference from Donald Trump, the US president. So the thing is that he refused to learn. He refused to take advice from his advisors, from his coaches. So as such, one of the most hit country in the world for the pandemic situation is actually US. So he refused, and he refused to wear masks with a lot of the health expert that are the subject matter expert. They actually coach him, they actually guide him, they actually give him a lot of information. He refused to learn, and his mindset is always that I know better than you. So the moment that we begin to feel that we are God and that we know everything, that is the time where we actually decline, and that's the time where the organization decline. So I'm sharing from my experience as a CEO right now in my organization, is that how would the organization actually grow? So a lot of us in Asia culture, okay, this is my observation, is that when we became a CEO, when we become a CEO, we think that we have reached the peak of our career. We think that we know everything. Okay, as such, we refuse to learn from people, and as such, then we make a lot of mistakes. I would say that I started off as a HR practitioner, and then became a functional leader, which is a HR leader. And then when I move on to become a CEO role, I will very often still adopt my HR expertise, my HR thinking. But the thing is, being a CEO, I'm no longer just doing HR job. I also have to be in charge of marketing. I also need to oversee operations. I need to do a lot more other things. So as such, I actually need to engage an executive coach to actually guide me, to be a sounding board to me, to guide me to see things from a very different perspective. Having an executive coach, having a coach to me is not to say that I am no good. It is actually to help me to have a different perspective of things. So I'll say that this is actually very critical for a CEO, for the top executive. And at the same time, this is also very critical for all the senior executives in an organization. Likewise, it is also critical for the people manager in an organization and also for the employee. So that is the reason why Alfie and myself, we have a good discussion about this. And then we decided to talk a lot about coaching. How do we encourage coaching to be part and parcel of the learning and development or the learning culture? So to share with you one very interesting example, in view of time, I'm just going to share one example. So when I was a HR leader in my previous organization, fortunately I got this privilege to be invited to have a conversation with a government body, which is called the EDB, Economic Development Board. And the role of the organization is to attract overseas foreign companies to come to Singapore. So that is the role of the EDB, okay? But why would EDB want to talk to a HR person? Why would EDB want to talk to me? Because I am not a business leader. I'm not going to bring the business into Singapore. My company is already operating in Singapore. So, but what happened is somebody actually connected the EDB to me and asked the EDB, why don't you talk to Eddie? Eddie has a very interesting thought, even though he's a HR practitioner. So what happened is I have a conversation with the EDB and they asked me as a HR person, what do I do and what do I think about for the industry? I was previously in the logistics and freight forwarding industry. So what happened is I actually began to tell them that I want to build a learning university for my organization. And they say, okay, so what about that? So give me more information about that. So what I did was I shared with him that there are already a lot of learning hubs, learning university in an organization. But what happened is they're very much focused on the skill base and they're very much focused on the middle level, the middle management people. But what happened is that I shared with them that I want to actually focus on people who are retiring, who are executives, and also people who are retiring. Why is that so? It's because even though when these people reach a certain age group, they retire, but they have a lot of historical knowledge of the organization. They have a lot of knowledge and also insights of the organization. They have, so I'll say that instead of them retiring, so why don't I actually bring them back, okay, as a second career, okay? I can get them to be on board as a consultant, as a coach, and to be an executive coach. So for those who are already a retiring CEO, can they not come back to become a mentor, a coach to the young CEOs, the young MDs, managing directors of the respective country? So I begin to create this kind of opportunity. And when I do that, once I do that, at the same time I say that we begin to develop something, and then we will begin to not just do it for our own company, but we begin to do this for our competitors within the same within the same industry, and I can actually monetize it as well. So when I begin to propose this, and I say that I don't just want to become a learning university for Singapore, I want to be a learning university for the Asia Pacific region, for my company, and also for the industry. And then this will increase the capability of the people, and this will increase the job opportunity for the people. So with that, the EDB was very excited about what I'm sharing. And they say, hey, okay, Eddie, so how can I support you through funding, through grant? So that is where I begin to get money for my company. That's how I begin to bring value to my company by increasing the revenue to my company. So whether is it through the funding or is it through training my competitor. So this is something that I actually put in place for the learning and development through coaching. So this is a very powerful thing that I think that is very important for us to put in place for coaching. And likewise, recently I'm having a conversation with the finance industry and the hospitality industry. So for the finance industry, they are always looking at getting leads. So I actually told them that, hey, you should move from a financial advisor to become a career coach, to become a coach. Then it's very easy for you to have a conversation with the people, and then after that, then you can actually progress them from coaching to become your leads. So this is actually for the financial industry. And then from the hospitality industry, I think we talk a lot about service, we talk a lot about customer service, but at the same time, we should be talking about employee experience. We should be talking about a lot about employee experience. So employee experience has been something that has been ongoing for the last 3 to 4 years. There's a lot of conversation about that. But I think that we need to start to talk about employee experience and customer experience and how to have a seamless between the two. So this could be done actually through coaching. So these are some of the examples that I put in place that I want to share with you, that how do you make coaching to be very applicable, and how do you actually help to create revenue and reduce the cost for your organization. So with that, I finished my sharing. I just want to make sure that I'm very mindful of the time and not to take too much of the time so that other speakers is able to share more. So without further ado, I'm going to hand back to Alfie. Is there any other questions for me?
Yes, that was great. So for all the participants, if we could ask everyone to go to the chat box and write one key learning from Eddie's points there, and he mentioned specifically about the importance of coaching and how that will help participants at different levels. So take a moment, go to the chat box and write one key learning from your session. Yeah, great. So let's take a moment. Yeah, where's the music from our studio, Ali? Good. So I see there's good comments coming from there. Good. So a couple of questions there, Eddie, for you. There was one question from a participant which specifically asked this, that how important it is to have an external coach, because we reach at a certain level in our career, and then to get to the next level, we need somebody with us, right? How important it is. Could you briefly talk about that?
Okay, so I would say that I would not say that I do not want to overemphasize on external coach. I would say that we should be looking at a balance of having an internal coach and also an external coach. There are the pros and cons of each of them. So, like example, for an internal coach, which I have put in place previously for my logistic industry, was that because they carry a lot of the historical knowledge, and they actually have a lot. They know the ins. They even know the company politics, the office politics, which are also equally important. They also know about the network within the organization. So that is the reason why I say that it's very important to ensure that we have internal coach. But at the same time, I would say that it's also very important to have external coach. To share with you, as a HR practitioner, I've been doing HR for the last 20 over years. But I actually moved on from different industry. I have never stayed in one industry. Okay, I've been in the hospitality industry. I worked for MAHRP before. Okay, for the vacation club, whereby I talk about the resort. Then I worked for the logistics. I worked for the aviation. So even though I'm hired as a HR person in the organization, the reason why they hire me is because I do not belong to the same industry. I bring a different industry perspective of things into the organization. So I'm actually considered as an external consultant or external coach to them, because I bring the different industry, I bring a different insights into the industry. So, example, if we are in the same industry, all of us as a HR person or L&D person, we probably will be doing the same thing in the same industry. But where is our USP? Where is our competitive advantage? The only USP that we can get is if we learn from other industry. That is very important. That is how the external coach is able to bring a different insights into the industry. The external coach can actually ask a lot of questions and get you to think outside the box as well.
Yes, very good, and I think that you're right, because for one to be a coach and to help other people to get to a different level, obviously they need to have a experience in specific areas or in general. So that was very good. And the second question from a participant is that many organizations, they tend to create this culture of coaching within there. What factors that organizations need to consider when they're choosing someone to be their coach? Could you enlighten on this briefly?
Okay, I would say that in my role as a HR person, I actually have gone through a number of times whereby I have to choose an external coach for my CEOs and my executives, my senior executives. I would say that first of all, the person must have very good knowledge about coaching, but it's not so much the technical knowledge, but it's really the facilitation, the ability to pull out a lot of insights from the CEO. A lot of times we are not the coach is not to give the executive the answer, but is to draw the answer from the CEO themselves. Okay, so that is why the coach, the ability to be able to draw the information out and get the CEO to be very creative. So this is the first point. The second thing that I would say that is very important is the chemistry between the CEO and the coach. There must be the trust that is being built between the two of them. If the CEO doesn't trust the coach, that's the end of the whole relationship, and that is going to be a waste of time. So that is why previously when I did that, I have gone through my own selection of who are the coaches. I probably have about 3 to 5 coaches. Then what happened is that they have the knowledge, they have the skill set, they're very good. But what happened is the 5 of them, I get them to talk to my CEO for about 30 minutes to an hour to make sure that and get him to feel whether is there a chemistry between him and the trust between him and the coach.
Okay, very good. And I think that makes a good sense. And we obviously due to the issue we had earlier, there's a bit of time, but I think we're good in terms of the timing, and we'll keep going. I think there's also a question that came which said, what's the difference between the coaching and mentoring? And I know our closing keynote speaker on day 2 will speak a lot about mentoring. But as your last thought about what's the key difference between coaching and mentoring, and how would you differentiate this briefly? And then in the meantime, all the participants, how much you enjoyed the conversation of Eddie. Give some love to Eddie. Go to the chat box and write your thoughts and comments. And I'm sure he'll be happier. Yeah, so keep your comments coming. I mean, just give as much as you can. I'm sure he will love to see your reactions, your thoughts, your comments. So the question is, did you enjoy the conversation? Are you happy? I mean, just go ahead and write all the yes. Keep the flowers coming down. So Eddie, to you, last point, difference between coaching and mentoring.
Okay, so I would say that there is some confusion about coaching and mentoring, but I'll say that let's not be so anal about the difference between the two. I think what we should do is we should learn the skill set of both the mentor and also the coach. So I would say that the mentor is somebody who is a subject matter expert, who is able to tell you exactly what to do. Whereas the coach is not to tell you what to do, but the coach is to get you to think how to do things differently, how do you do things more efficiently. I mean, you probably will have the answer already, except that you need somebody to draw it out from you. So I would say that that is a key difference.